Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Hassle of Hair, episode 122. Our guest today is Brian the Bull Holstein. If you're here new to this podcast, my name is Jesse Diaz, and I started this podcast through the pandemic kind of as a hobby to listen to others, kind of just hear stories from others. I'm a coach at Strike Fitness. I quit my job to pursue this martial arts thing and begin fighting, and then which it started with me, and then it evolved into my family. Like me and my wife really just we quit FedEx and we really dove into finding our passions and working on our own, not having a 9 to 5 and being in control of our own life. And on the pursuit of that, we found others that were doing the same thing, and I interviewed them. And inspiring stories of being an entrepreneur or inspiring stories of overcoming things. I mean, me and my wife have both overcome things in our youth. And we wanted to hear from others. There's a lot more people like that out there that have had tribulations and had hard times, and they've overcome them. Today's guest is Brian the Bull Holstein. He's a professional boxer fighting out of Ohio, held 3 titles, and 13-8-1 is his record. Started boxing late, and I'm not having him on because of boxing. I'm having him on because he was earlier in October, last year in October, was diagnosed with leukemia. And it kind of was it threw a wrench into his career, into his life, and he kind of talks, and we go over what happened, and we go over how he started boxing, when he was diagnosed, what happened, how he dealt with it. And the guy's just a positive guy. You guys got to listen to this, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be inspired. And yeah, before we get into the interview, make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hassle of Hair. It's The Hassle of Hair. And and kind of like join our journey, on me and my wife's journey on pursuing our passions and then finding others who are doing the same thing. I mean, we only live once, and we got to go after it. I don't want to be in my deathbed thinking like, man, what could have I done better, right? I want to put it all out there to really go after this thing that we call life. And yeah, if you're listening to on Apple, please give us a review. 5 stars if you like it, 1 star if you don't. But whatever stars you give us, please write a review. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us what we're doing right. And I love you guys. Keep on going after your passion. Enjoy the episode with Brian Holstein, the professional boxer diagnosed with leukemia and then rising from the ashes. Let's go, Brian the Bull Holstein. Enjoy. How you doing, Brian?
What's up, buddy? I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm all right. So I've been following you for quite a while. I actually don't even know how I started following you. I just found you on.
That's probably one of my shit posts or something.
Well, I think it's because I did look up, like, I got interested in cruiserweights.
Mm-hmm.
And because cruiserweight boxers don't really get as much love as heavyweights, they still have they generate the same kind of power. And
that's they say anybody 200 pounds can knock out anybody 200 pounds. And cruiserweight's 176 to 199, and most of them come in at 210 and cut down to that 199. So I've been fighting some big boys, but it's the best of both worlds. You got light heavyweight speed and skill, and then you got heavyweight bombs. You never know what's going to happen.
And why do you think cruiserweights don't get as much love?
Just the name, man. Everybody wants to be heavyweight champion of the world. You think of the weight classes, heavyweight's the top tier. Cruiserweight's like the redhead stepsister. Nobody talks about us.
And you've won 2 belts in your career, right?
I've won 3 state titles, and I fought at the big dance 2 times against Nick Kisner, and he's first one was a split decision. Second one, it was yeah, he got the judge's favor. So it's we've had some fun times.
And before we get into the incident, the stuff that's been recently going on, how did you start boxing?
Dude, I got into it late, man. I was like 23. I went through a bad relationship, and I was never this guy. I was a nerd. I was a 135 pound 4.0 nerd. And it's after that breakup, I needed to vent some stress, and I went and did a tough man contest. And tough man's not boxing; it's not real. It's just tough man. 1 minute round slugfest, and I found out that I had a natural talent, like a natural gift, and it wasn't skill; it was just God given power. I could throw a punch the same way as somebody else, but my punch was like NyQuil to people. So, it was almost like on the job training as I started. So I did the tough man. Then I, went to amateurs. I fought like a pro in the amateurs, obviously, because I didn't know how to box. I was just a fighter. And, as I progressed into pros, my first 10 fights, were pretty solid. It's when you go to that next level where, guys that have been developing the skill, over the past decade where I didn't have that time, really progress. And that's, kind of where I left off before the incident.
And what were you doing at the time when you were just starting off? Like, what was your career?
Dude, I had nothing figured out. I mean, I was a bar back bartender. I was working security at a bunch of nightclubs. I was just a typical, free spirit through life. I didn't know where I was going, what I wanted to do. I didn't really get into developing a career until I actually started boxing. Boxing opened my doors professionally. Everybody knew me as the bull, and everybody wanted the bull because just the mess I was just got a lot of attention. Attention's good for business. As long as it's bringing in dollars. So,
and take me back to the tough man contest. How do you enter that? Like what happened?
Dude, it was so sketch. So I'm from suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. So Columbus is where I fight out of. This fight was in Dayton, Ohio. So it was about 2.5 hours west, capital city. We drove out there on a Friday night. There was in Ohio, you can only fight 2 times in one night. So I fought 2 times on Friday and 1 time on Saturday. And it was just you sign up, you pay your $50, and here you go. But that's a story in itself. The tough man contest, I come out and I fight this Latino guy the first time. And like I said, I'd never been in a fight at first. This is the first time ever. And, this guy comes out and starts just wailing on me, man, just nonstop, just, haymakers and everything. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So, I throw a punch and the punch drops him down. So he gets his, 6 count, gets up. And I'm like, hey, what's this? Let me do it again. Hit him again. He almost gets stoned. Like, he makes it, at 9. And I knocked him down one more time. They called it the fight. Well, I went and fought an hour and a half later against this Marine. And this dude was built. When I say built, he was yoked. The weight classes, they don't matter in tough man. I think I was 160 fighting a guy that was 185, 190. Like, I had a definite weight disadvantage. But I put him out in the first round. Come back on Saturday, and I fight this guy, and I'm cocky. Like, I'd never been in a fight before, and here I am knocking these guys out. 2 in one night. I come out against this other guy who's in the championship fight. This is the last fight for the get your tough man jacket with champion on it. And I hit him, put him down to a knee, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. He gets back up, and I go to throw a punch, but I run into one of his punches, puts me in the ropes. My arm gets caught in the rope, and as I'm turning around, I look at him walking up to me, winding back. The next thing I remember is I'm getting handed $500 on a gurney. I'm like, wait, I still got to go fight. They said, no, son, you did good. I was like, all right. Stories, man. That's all it is.
And were you thinking after that, like, oh man, I want to fight for a career, or did somebody talk you into it?
So I was in, the guy that got me in the tough man. He was one of the older journeyman style fighters. He had a bunch of amateur fights, a couple pro fights, just a typical, old head, you know what I mean? Like a guy that's just got nods that, he let me stay with him when I didn't have any place to go after that breakup. I lived at his house on his couch, and he had a VHS player, poor, we were poor then, like VHS player with Mike Tyson's greatest hits. I watched Mike Tyson's greatest hits on repeat for hours and hours and hours. And I'd go out to the garage, he had a heavy bag, and I would practice trying to emulate that style. And, part of that, gave me the name that I got. My last name, Holstein, like I said, breed of cow, play on words. They called me the bull, but, back in the day, Tyson, his what was his name? The baby bull before he got Iron Mike, and Kid Dynamite. Yeah. So, the bull kind of stuck with me. Somebody, Mike, the guy they lived with, he said, that's a name for a Wheaties box. We'll stick with that. And I was like, done. So here we are.
Awesome. And what gym do you train out of?
So currently I'm training out of Immortal MMA. That's Matt Brown, buddy of mine. Yeah. It's his gym, and he's got some real solid guys, like a lot of talent. It's just, it's a melting pot, man. It's been real beneficial for me.
And you were fighting for quite a few years, and the pandemic happened. I'm sure it kind of threw a wrench into your career or your just life in general. But then, and then you get the call for a Triller fight.
Yep. So the story about that, all my career, I never set out to be the best boxer. I didn't have the time that these guys had invested in early years. Like I said, I started 23. I said, what's my niche going to be? You go into this, how am I going to make my name? How am I going to be remembered? I said, well, I'll be damned if I'm not the most entertaining when I go out to fight. So, you look at my record, 13-8-1 in 4 weight classes. 2 or 3 state titles I've got. I fought for the Ohio heavyweight, lost it to Jeremiah Carpensy, which was Tommy Carpensy, light heavyweight contender for the world titles, brother. We went, 8 rounds just in a beatdown, man. And I was 205 there, like trying to fluff up on water, and he's cutting down to like 218 or whatever it was, and he's already a big dude. I went and fought him 8 rounds, and 3 months later went up and fought on Showtime up at Turning Stone Casino in Syracuse or Verona, New York, at 168 pounds for super middleweight. So, I didn't go out and stick at cruiserweight. I went out to where I could get fights. And, from heavyweight all the way down to super middle, I think I had my first 10-ish fights around cruiserweight, but I couldn't get fights because nobody wanted to put their guys against me. I was like the black sheep. So I would go out and try to, oh yeah, I'll take this fight. That got me, put on notice as a fill-in for Tommy Fury. So when Triller had the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley fight up in Cleveland, I was an alternate for Tommy Fury. Their guys told my management team, nah, man, we don't want him right now. He's too tough, is what they told me. And I said, well, I told my management, I was like, well, keep me in the loop, so I can try to get back on. That fight didn't happen. I had been in talks with BKFC and was about to get a fight against David Rickles, is what the word was. Well, they ended up pulling Rickles because one of the other main event fighters had an injury, was word through the grapevine. So they put Rickles with that guy, and I didn't have a fight. I'm looking for fights now. Like, I'm not fighting BKFC. I don't know what to do. What's going on? I reached out to my boxing manager. I said, hey, is there anything going on? He said, I got you something with Triller. He's like, they want you on. So I was supposed to fight Frederick Julan up at the Barclays Center up in October. I think it was October 15th. I can't remember. It was all kind of whirlwind after that, but that's where things left off.
And so this was, it wasn't your biggest fight, but it was like, I guess media wise, probably your most covered fight, right?
So I went out and fought in Studio City against a now buddy of mine, Trevor McCumbee. And Trevor McCumbee, undefeated at the time. It was my first experience, like having cameras in my face. This was a PBC event. Like, I was like, wow, man, this is huge. And I came out and I caught him one good left hook, and I forgot how to fight afterwards. I look at the cameras. I'm like, oh man, I'm about to do something. Then I ate a bunch of hooks after that. So he got me. This one here, this would have been my biggest media event as the comeback, because I've been on the edge of that diving board 2 times already. With the national titles, the NABA, WBA. I had a lot of steam behind me, and then the pandemic hit and everything kind of shut down. So this was like, hey, third time's a charm. Let's go make a fucking statement, up there in Brooklyn against their own guy, and the rest is history.
And let's stop and talk about I find it crazy because like when you're fighting, I mean, I never fought at the pro level, but when you're in the gym, it's like it's just you and whoever's your training partners are, and it's quiet. There's no cameras. There's nothing around you, and I can't imagine going from like it's pretty boring. Like people don't understand, it's pretty boring, and then going from that to the fight week to cameras everywhere to people interviewing you. That's insane.
It is definitely, the first time is definitely a mind fuck. Definitely. Yeah. Like it's just overwhelming experience. Like you're not used to it. You know what I mean? It's like the first time you learn to ride a bike, you're all excited. I'm riding a bike, and you crash it. That's, it's kind of similar. It's a lot. If you haven't been exposed to it, the first time is always a doozy.
Yeah. So it is different than fighting on those local cards.
Fact.
Yeah. And then so you get the Triller fight, and it's the week of the fight. How did your camp go for that fight?
So I think the fight was at light heavyweight. 175 was the contract weight. And, in New York, when you're fighting in New York, my age being 33 at the time, they said, well, he hasn't had a fight since 18, for the NABA, but obviously the pandemic was all happening, so fights were shut down. We had basically 2 years off. The only fights I seen having on were guys that were already in stables, like DeBella's guys, De La Hoya, Golden Boy. Like they would have their guys already fighting each other in their stable just to maintain their caliber. You don't want those guys getting rust. Guys like me, these farm guys, basically the farm league. We kind of got
blue collar.
That's right. We got hung out to dry, and kind of try to find something to do. So I stuck those 2 years. I really advanced professionally, with business, and I was kind of burning the candle at both ends, trying to find time to train, find time family, find time work, and not drop the ball on any of them. But yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, and it was the week of the fight. So you had the fight camp, and it's the week of the fight. And what people don't know is you have your physical, and then you get your the day of fight physical. And so you're constantly having these doctor checks. Take us through that fight week or the first physical that you had. Did anything show up for that one? And when did the leukemia show up?
So I don't know how long I've had the leukemia. It was, I'll tell you, in most states, they do your fighter trio for your blood work. That's it. They check for HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. New York, they have a very strict, protocol, especially with somebody that is aged, as they say, like I was, 33 at the time. They put me through an MRI. They gave me the CATs, the CT scans. They gave me an EKG. And they didn't just do the fighter trio with the blood work. They did a CBC panel, complete blood count, just to make sure there wasn't irregularities. Problem with the CBC, I got it there. So I'm already in Brooklyn at the hotel, getting ready for everything, doing all these tests, getting chauffeured around to do one test and the next test and the next test. And as you know, with medical, you go in there and you sit and wait too. You know what I mean? It's not like I got red carpet treatment going to the hospitals. It was, okay, I'm going to sit here for 3 hours and, hang out. But, my lab results for my blood didn't come back until the weigh-ins. So I had already done the weigh-in. I'd come down and I got the call to fight on Triller 2 weeks before the fight. and I was 192 pounds. And I'm a master of electrolyte manipulation. Like I just know how to do it right. And I put my body through the gauntlet. And I made it to 170. I think I was at 173 for weigh-ins in 2 weeks. So, I get on the scale. I'm like, that's how you make weight, baby. An hour later, they pulled me to the side after the press conference and stuff. And they said, New York State Athletic Commission, one of the commissioners, and then their chief doctor for the event, they pulled me into a separate room and say, there's some irregularities with your screenings. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, fuck, I got COVID. They're not going to let me fight.
Yeah.
Like, no, your COVID test, it came back good. They said, they didn't tell me all the details. They said, you need to get on a flight home ASAP and go see an oncologist. I'm like, what the fuck's an oncologist? You know what I mean? I just didn't know. I Googled it. And the first thing comes up, oncologist Columbus, Ohio, is the James Cancer Hospital, Ohio State University. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I go into the James the next day after I get back.
And what were you thinking? I mean, there's a whole day. There's a whole day in between. Like, are you just sitting there like, is it the bump on my back? Like, or like thinking of like little things that might be cancer? Like, what were you thinking?
So I noticed some things, like my blood was coming out thicker, but I thought it was because I was dehydrated. Usually when I cut weight and dehydrate, your blood comes out a little bit thicker, less viscous. I was thinking that. And they didn't tell me in New York what my counts were. I had to call the doctor that I got the blood labs to get those results. The commission didn't tell me. So my white blood cell count was over 300,000, and a normal is like 7 to 10. They say 7 to 10,000 for your count. You're critical if you're around 20,000, like double critical if you're like around 30,000. I was at 300, I think 26,000. And they're like, we don't see how. When I got to the James, the nurses come up to me and they're like, we don't see how you're so sprightly, so much energy and personality. She said, they said people, with your blood labs like that look like this are coming in, in wheelchairs, in serious condition. I'm like, bro, like it was almost a disbelief for me. Like from the fight, when they told me, and I got the counts from the doc, that I got the blood work from, I sat in my hotel room and I went into a depression, dude, like a big depression. I went down, to the hotel bar and I spent my per diem buying everybody shots, like, for the event. Like, I'm like, dude, if this is how it goes, if this is what it is, I'm just trying to spread some joy. So spread the love. So somebody was out for her birthday, bought their whole group shots. I was out with, one of my cornermen, we bought somebody else some shots, and it was just, it was just a total disbelief. Like, you're never really prepared for somebody to pull the carpet out from under you like that. I've been this guy, for the past decade. The bull, the persona, it was like I was going to the bull's funeral, and that's what it was. It was me coping with an identity crisis in the moment, and carried on for almost a month when I got back. It was really hard that night, though. Tried to drink the sorrows away and spread some joy to make me feel better.
And were you thinking, like, so when the doctor tells you you got leukemia, diagnoses you, are you thinking death? Like, you're already thinking, okay, I'm gonna die. It's all over.
Yeah. It was my birthday, bro. I got diagnosed on my birthday, October 19th, with chronic myeloid leukemia. And I'm like, fuck, like, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew, leukemia, blood cancer, you have stages of cancer. Like you got, let's say breast cancer, 1, 2, 3, 4, for how progressive disease is. When you're talking about blood cancer, your blood's already all over your body. And they don't have stages with it. You either don't have it or you're full blown. And the biggest risk for me was clotting, stroking out, because all the excess, white blood cells in the blood. It was prone to cause some blockages. But
and this is a little bit of bro science. Do you think because you worked out your whole entire life? I mean, well, from 23, I don't know if you worked out before that, but rigorously, like you're a pro athlete. Do you think because you're getting you're pumping your blood constantly, do you think that had to do with you
So
not feeling it?
so here's what, so I started, believe it or not, I was 17 years old. I was a competitive bodybuilder. I was that kid that had the creatine walking into high school and doing all that stuff. So I remember reading a Muscle and Fitness magazine. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a former bodybuilder that converted over to mixed martial artist. And he's like, yeah, man, I was always tired of being the big guy and getting fucked with. And I was like, you know what, I can relate to that. Like, I'm gonna try this boxing thing. Started the tough man, but the biggest thing with the leukemia, like training wise, like leading up to it, I noticed that I was a little bit out of breath. I could spar. Normally I'd spar, nonstop, 15, 20, 25 rounds, just using, technique style. If I'm getting tired, rely on my skill instead of relying on conditioning. And I was noticing I would get tired at 6 rounds and not be able to continue. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, it's just because I'm old. I'm getting ring rust and trying to knock this off. I didn't know that in addition to having the leukemia, my red blood cell count, I was anemic because my body was spending more time producing the white blood cells with the
Mm.
cancer than it was producing the red blood cells. So, I get tired I used to run 5 miles, averaging a 7-minute mile pace up and down the hills of West Virginia,
Mm.
family farm. I couldn't even run, 2 miles without getting winded at a 9:30 pace here in Columbus on flatland. So, it's as I got the diagnosis, some of the things started clicking. It was like, oh, so this has been going on for like 3 months. How long have I really had leukemia?
It's so crazy because like I don't know. I'm stubborn. There's things where I just say, oh, I just brush it off. I'm not gonna go to the doctor. No one wants to go to the doctor.
You're right.
Eh, and so you get the diagnosis. You say you spent the kind of like the fight week or the week of just buying a bunch of shots for people and so when did anybody give you a plan? What did they set you up with? Like what was the plan getting out of it?
So I called while I'm still in New York. So
Oh, your sound went off. There we go.
I got the freak out, right as I got the diagnosis or got the notification I couldn't fight. That's when I was freaking out. That night I went out and bought all the shots and everything, trying to cope, because I wasn't going to be able to sleep. Like it was already, starting to weigh on me. I was just trying to deflect it. Like this isn't happening. Whatever. Let's just go out and make everybody else happy. Try to do that jazz. Um, when I came back, it's just you can't explain it, man. Like it's a real shock. Like everything all together. Like it's just you don't know what you got until you don't have it no more. And that's what it felt like. It's yeah. It was rough. Let's put it that.
And did so what in your head like what did you want to do? Like was there like a protocol? Did the doctor give you like
That's what you're
a
saying. Yeah. So I
yeah, a
called
pen?
when I was there. I called my doc buddy. I've got a personal friend. I got a real tight circle, of friends. My circle of five, businessman, my lawyer, my doc buddy. I called him and I told him my counts, whatnot. He's like, I don't want you to freak out, but it could be one of two things. And he told me, leukemia, lymphoma, because I told him that I was feeling some swelling in the lymph nodes, my armpits, whatnot. He said, that's potential signs. I was having night sweats, but I thought that was just because of the weight cut. And he's like, that's fine. I'm like, oh shit. So, the plan with him was get back to the James, let them, do their diagnosis, see what I had, and then go from there. Luckily, CML is it's a treatable disease, is what they say. So before I think '98, it was they used to try to give it the hard chemo to try to get rid of it, and it still was only like a 50% flip of a coin whether you make it or not. Nowadays,
Yeah.
after '98, they came out with the medicine. It's a TKI, tyrosine kinase inhibitor. It blocks the white blood cell, the cancer blood cell, from making it, like from duplicating. So
I've been on these TKIs for, I don't know, 3.5 months, and you know, everything started going back to normal, like as far as count wise and whatnot. So I was talking with, you know, my doc buddy, and I was talking to my oncologist, and my oncologist, you know, told me, he's like, listen, he's like, if your levels keep going like this, he's like, you'll be able to go back and fight. He's like, you'll just have to be on a protocol. Well, I was thinking that being normal, like my count went back to normal. I went from 320 some thousand down to about 9,000, 8,000 as far as count. But those 8,000, my BCR, the percentage of those white blood cells was still around 50, 70%. So even though I had normal counts, half of them were ranging with cancer cells. So I was going to have to take this TKI for the rest of my life just to maintain what I was already maintaining, is what the
Yeah.
thought was. And I got a call about a month ago. I was driving my vet, I still had it, and cruising top down. I hit the speaker, whatnot, and they're like, "Hey, this is so and so, Dr. Bebahani's office. Are you sitting down?" I'm like, "No, I'm driving the vet." She's like, "Well, don't wreck. I got some good news." And I'm like, "Oh, really? What do you got?" She said, "Your BCR went from 59% the last draw, which was 2 weeks prior. She's like, it's 0.9%. And I'm like, what does that mean? Is that good? That sounds good. Is that remission? She's like, well,
Yeah.
I'll let you talk to Benahani and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And on our follow-ups, you know, the doc said, he said, listen, this CML is a genetic mutation. It's your 9th chromosome attaching to the 22nd with that tyrosine kinase protein. Those inhibitors stop that from happening, which then keeps those cancer cells from developing. He said, you know, it's
and did you know all this? Did you know all this before you had cancer? Or are you?
no, dude. I'm a very well versed individual. Like I know I know a lot about a lot, but you know, not a master of any of it. And you know, as I'm picking this stuff up on the fly, I'm like, you know, I can almost, you know, preach this stuff to somebody going through it. Like, hey, it's going to be okay. You know, just keep taking your stuff. This is what this is going to do. It's how it worked with me. You know, it's you definitely learn on the fly. But my levels went from 0.9% to 2 weeks later to 0.043. And then my last draw was almost 0.001. He said that remission, he said, I'm almost remission. He said, remission is, you know, what they call safe for, you know, legal purposes, a year at 0.0001% of the cancer cells. And I'm damn near there for like remission. The only thing that I don't have is the time. They want me to have it for at least a year. So, you know, I'm cleared to fight because my levels are so far down and under control. But he's waiting until, you know, I'm staying at this for a year to consider it full remission.
Okay. And so how long from when you got the diagnosis? It was about a year, right?
No, man, this was last October.
Last October. Yeah. So yeah. So that's a pretty good change around, like from thinking that, okay, this is the end, to now, like, okay, I gotta wait a few more months, and then that's when you're gonna get the full, like, oh, I can go back, right?
Well, that's you're right on the money. And it was
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, you know, I believe in, you know, energy, positive you put out is positive get back. And, you know, if you think negatively, negative stuff happens. And, you know, it's with the cancer I was still going through a lot of denial, like I didn't have it. You know what I mean? Like I would watch TikToks or see stuff come up on commercials, and people would be, you know, the James or, you know, St. Jude and having cancer. And I'm like, man, I felt so sorry for him. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I've got that stuff too. Like, what do you mean? Like, I never really accepted that I had cancer or have cancer. It was and so I never changed my protocol. I had to go to the gym. I changed my training from boxing oriented training to, you know, strength and conditioning. I was like, you know what, if I'm not going to be a boxer anymore, I'm going to be, you know, a power lifter. So I started going back to Westside Barbell, home of the world's strongest men, training with Luke Edwards. I mean, Luke Edwards is the face of it. They got a documentary on Netflix, Westside versus the World. That's like, you know, the world's strongest men. No bullshit. Come out there. You know, NCAA NFL, NBA, like it's an invitation only gym. And I'm one of the few non-power lifters, including Matt Brown, UFC. He's up there. We trained a couple times. Him getting ready to come up to Diego Sanchez, man, with that elbow, bro. I know you've seen that, but
Yeah.
he's been real. He's been real positive for me, mentality wise. Like he's allowed me to, he's a big one that I look to as far as when I was going through this shit. Like, focus on training. We'd go over to his house, beating on tires, throwing sandbags, like do all kinds of crazy shit, and not really focus on the cancer. Keep training, bro. Keep training, bro. And that's thinking positive. I think that positive thinking played a lot into the, way it ended up being, where I'm almost in remission.
Yeah, you need those kind of people in your life where they just say, fuck it. Like, just keep you on that path, that just let you forget about everything that's happening. And they create this thing where you can't make excuses.
Facts.
Yeah. And so you get the good news. So what's the plan now? Are you training to box, or are you still lifting a bunch of weight, or what's the plan?
I'm still lifting weight, and I reached out to Kevin Smith Brothers Combat Sports. He's my manager for the BKFC, and I sent him all my stuff, all my clearances and everything. And he said, bro, let's do this. I said, this is gonna be the shit they make movies out of. So he reached out to Nate Shook and that whole crew with Feldman. In the full circle of it. I was fighting on Triller, supposed to fight on Triller, have that happen, go through this shit. In the meantime, Triller buys majority stake in the BKFC. I was supposed to fight on BKFC. Opponent got taken away, which let me do the Triller, get the cancer, get back from the cancer. Triller buys into BKFC, and I have a chance to fight on BKFC, coming full circle as a Triller promotion. So, from the ashes we rise. Here we are.
And you're talking about fighting in October, probably October or November.
So there's been some buzz probably next couple months.
Couple months. Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but a little bit sooner than later. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Awesome. And your story, it's not more of it's a fighting story. I mean, there's something about fighters that just overcome everything. Like, it's just that what it takes to become a fighter, you need to have that will. A lot of people that get sick, they kind of just, you spent what, like a week or a month just
I spent about 2.5 weeks just not wanting to get out of bed and, really feeling sorry for myself. Yeah. And, my wife kind of pushed me and, got me out of that, slump, and then, allowed me to go in and, get back into a routine. And then, the partners and the people that I've been around, Luke Edwards over at Westside, Matt Brown over at his gym, like, it's, that mentality really, it made a big difference. So put me back to where I am now, man. I'm ready to fucking compete again.
Let's go. And I'm excited for you, man. You got a positivity to you that is just shines, right? It shines out of you. And I think that's the reason why, like, I love following you, because even when you did get the diagnosis, you were still positive on social media, kind of just throwing out positivity out there. And it's a cool thing to see somebody that's fallen on a hard time still have that positivity.
I appreciate that, man. It means a lot. Like, it's real. And I'm not gonna bullshit. It's bad days. The bad days, they get less and less with the more good days you fill in. Feeling good, you might not always feel good, but you can make good choices. To put positivity out. I started actively trying to be more positive to try to get a positive return, and it's worked so far. Energy breeds energy. I'm a big believer in it.
And I want to thank you for doing this interview and telling your story. And if you have a few words for people that, I mean, you've overcome a lot. I mean, you started fighting at 23. You've won titles. You're doing it at the pro level, where in boxing people start when they're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And you're you're doing it. I mean, do you have any words? And you're overcoming cancer. Do you have any words for people just going after the thing, going
It
after
is
life?
it's you have to choose, and that is the biggest thing. We are all programmed that we have to accept the way things are. It is a choice. You can be down here, or you can choose to bring yourself to the next level. I'm not. It's not a bullshit story. When I got into this is when that movie Never Back Down came out. You remember that?
Yeah.
And everybody was all hyped about being a fighter and the MMA and UFC, and that's when UFC's getting its takeoff. And I remember watching that movie, and I was like, man, like I want to fight. Like I can't kick. I'm not flexible. I can't do this. I was like, maybe I'll get into boxing. And then I watched MTV's Made. And you see MTV's Made, how these people that wouldn't even think to do what they're about to do get made to do it, and they become like a singer or a breakdancer or whatever, and nobody you would think of. I said, I'm going to make myself into this boxer. I'm literally doing drywall with my bar manager in his basement, and I said, hey Zach, I think I'm going to be a professional boxer. I think I'd be good at it. He said, fuck it, dude, YOLO. Like 23 years old, bro. Like if
Yeah.
I can do it, anybody can do it. It's all about choice. Choose. And it's not just a one-time choice. It is a every day. You have to have consistency choosing to go where you want to go. You want to be a singer? You got to choose to practice every day. You want to be a dancer? You got to choose to get that technique every day. You got every day consistency with your choice. That's what I'd say.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this, Brian, and I wish all the best. I'm gonna stay in touch. I can't wait for you to come out with some big news that you're fighting. And where do people find you on Instagram and anywhere else?
Where you can find me on Instagram at the Bull Champion. You can find me on TikTok at the Bull Champion. You can find me on Facebook, Brian Holstein. Or you go to my page, Brian the Bull Holstein. So, I'm not hard to find.
Thank you again, Brian. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate you, Jesse.
I hope you guys enjoyed Brian the Bull. Just positivity, right? Super positive guy, dealing with all that, and he stayed positive, right? Even on social media. I mean, we don't know what he dealt with. I mean, you hear him talk about how he dealt with it for 2 weeks or almost a month and just secluding himself. But I think the one thing he really talked about was how he had others behind him, others helping him. It takes a village. It takes people. I think that's one thing like I've learned over these years and talking to people and listening to other stories, the way people are successful, the way people overcome tribulations or overcome hard times are with a village behind them. And it's funny because people are not lucky. Like some people are like, man, they how did they get to overcome it? It was just probably luck because I don't have it that good. There are choices when it comes to your village, the people you have around you. It's you get to pick who you have around you, right? No one's forcing you unless you are forced, then but no one's forcing you to be around certain people. If doesn't matter if they're blood, doesn't matter if you've been friends for a long time. If they're not giving you positivity in your life, then you got to fill your circle with new people, right? It starts with the words of others, and first it starts with how you talk to yourself, but what you're consuming from others, what other people are saying. And when you get negativity from people or family members or friends, and it's a constant thing, then you're eating that stuff up. And it's not good for you. That's why you have to have good people around you. And sometimes those good people are not going to give you like advice that's going to make you happy. Sometimes good advice is going to is going to cause pain, because it's reality, it's truth. And so you have to have a good village. I mean, that's one thing that I think he didn't really dive into, but Brian really, every time he said that he was going through a hard time, he talked about how he had good people around him. He talks about Matt Brown. He talks about his family being around him and getting him out of that hole. And yeah, it takes a village. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I don't know, I follow this guy on Instagram, and I keep on seeing. I followed him before he was diagnosed, and super positive guy. I got into cruiserweight. I wish I could have talked to him about boxers, boxing more, but I for some reason I got into like a cruiserweight, watching a bunch of videos on cruiserweights. Like, I believe Trevor McCumbee, he's another cruiserweight that I found who's undefeated, and then I found Brian. And cruiserweights don't get enough love, and these guys are really, really good boxers, and that's how I found Brian. And then all of a sudden I just see this guy's story. It's so crazy. Social media. The guy lives all the way in Ohio, and I'm in California, and I'm a story guy. Like, I love reading, I love listening to stories. So social media, I don't follow people for like the reels or comedy. Like, the people I engage with are people that I'm following because of their story. It's a good story. And that's another thing. Like, that's another thing you're digesting, you're consuming. Like, what are you looking at on social media, right? And matters. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share us with other people. If you guys are here, brand new to this, listen to the other episodes. I've interviewed a bunch of people now, and it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Like, yes, like, I'm gonna be truthful with you guys. My episodes only get about 180 to 100 listens, and then like maybe 70, 80 views on YouTube. It doesn't seem like much, but I think it's not even the people listening that matters. Like, what I'm taking from this, it's the different people I've gotten to talk to. Like, now that I look back, and it's the insights I've gotten from different people, and it's teaching me things. I think that before I started this podcast, I was a lot different. I seen things in a way where, kind of what I said earlier, like, I thought people got lucky. I thought some people were born with it, or people were born with family members that would help them out. And then I realized, like, no matter where you're from, it literally takes hard work. It takes hard work and consistency, and you have to, whatever you're trying to build, it could be a boxing career, it could be a fighting career, it could be a podcast, it could be anything you want to build in your life. It could be becoming a chef. Like, you have to love it. If you don't love it, you're not going to do those boring things that you have to do by yourself. The things that really are a struggle, the grind. If you don't love it, then you're not going to do those things. All right? I mean, you have to. That's why when you guys work at different establishments that are bigger, like Walmart and Target and Starbucks and these places that they're huge corporations, and people are going to them just for a paycheck. The hardest thing to do is motivate others. I mean, how do they motivate each other? They give them a purpose. They give them something to thrive for. They give them a passion, right? And then they kind of, it's like a fake passion. You and those are like the diehards, like the guys, like the managers and stuff with that are just diehards there for life. Like they find a passion in it, and sometimes it's a fake passion. Sometimes you're kind of like brainwashed into thinking like, okay, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. I'll grind for it. And these companies, they build a passion into you, and that's why it's kind of easy to get lost when you're trying to find your passion, right? Because some people can't find that thing that they love and that they'll grind for. So they end up letting somebody else tell them what their passion is. And can't do that. You gotta find your own passion. And there's gonna be times that you struggle, that are hard money wise. There's no money. Like your family is going through hard times. Like it's just, name it all. Like it's gonna happen. But it's weird because going through all that makes you love your passion even more. You know, I don't want to, I think I said it before plenty of times. When I first started this podcast, I was trying to become a professional fighter. That I thought that's what I wanted, right? I thought that's what I quit my job for. And you know, it wasn't really it. Like I love martial arts. I love martial arts, and I had like a reality check. Um I've actually fought a guy that won over the weekend on Jorge Masvidal's fight card, Daniel Compton, and I fought him in the TBAs at Muay Thai, and the guy beat me up, and I learned a lot from that. He kind of saved me, right? It kind of made me realize like, it's like, oh, this is it. Like, this is what you're doing. Like, you need to be all in. You need to be a savage. I mean, that guy's a savage. That guy's a killer. And I don't know. Like, it's just, I have so many things on my plate. I have that I want to do. It's not like, I'm not saying excuses. There's so many things that I want to do. Like, I want to send my daughter to college. I want to build Strike, the fighters, the gym, help people and coaching. and I want to do this podcast. Like, this podcast is a lot of work. Like, right now I'm tired. Like, and I just want to enjoy life. And I realized fighting wasn't what I loved. It was going after being free, basically. Being free from FedEx, being free from having a job. My whole entire life, they told me that you have to have a job. You have to have a job. And I'm figuring out ways to make money and do this thing and not have to rely on a paycheck. I mean, a week-to-week paycheck. That's what I wanted. And fighting helped me get that. Maybe I love it. And fighting's an opportunity that I think that if you do it right, then you get a lot out of it. Martial arts. And I got a lot out of it. I didn't go to the pro level, but I got a lot out of it. I found this gym that I love. I found that I love coaching. And I love seeing others grow. I love studying the game. I love studying other people, other fighters. I love figuring out how to teach people. I love figuring different ways on okay, you get a wrestler. How do you teach them stand up? Like, this shit is, I love this shit. And I don't know. I found a way to do this. I found a way to do this where I don't have to have a 9 to 5. Right? I'm just grinding. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's difficult. But I love it. I love what I'm doing. I love my life. I love everything that I'm doing. And yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing when you finally put all your chips on yourself, right? Like, so when I'm working at FedEx, me and my wife were working at FedEx, and we're like, we're not focused on ourselves. We're just like making money for other people because we're making FedEx money. They're paying us, but we're still making them money. That we're giving them our time, which is worth way more than money. Your time is worth way more than anything else. And you're giving it to them. You're giving them 10, 14-hour days. Wasted days, not improving yourself. And one day, I kind of like just put all my chips on myself. And once you do that, it's fun. It's amazing. It's a struggle, but it is fun. And if you're on the border of, man, should I quit this job that gives me that's a dead end job? Should I quit this job? If you're on the border of like, man, I'm not going to have that much money. I'm not going to be able to survive. If you have a good conscience, if a positive vibe, if you have good in your heart, and you're not looking for an easy way out, like you can't quit your job and think, okay, it's going to be easy. If you have that all in your head, where you have a good heart, you have good work ethic, you don't want the easy way out. You're going to see that it's worth it to struggle. You're going to see that. And I'm telling you, if you're on the borderline right now, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. You got to do it. Because time ticks. Sorry, guys, I'm ranting. But so now I'm my buddy hit me up on St. Patrick's Day to bounce at a bar, O'Flattery's, and 5 Points in San Jose. And man, it's craziness. I love it though. I love the atmosphere. I love being around that. I love the fun chaos of it. You don't know what's gonna happen, like, and the whole staff over there is like a family, right? It's like a family over there, and they're really cool people. I'm super glad like my buddy Adaptive Sessions hit me up for it. It's fun. A lot of fights, a bunch of characters out there in the street, a lot of drunk people. I have seen so many people from high school. I have seen so many people that I know because I grew up in San Jose. And it's funny because people have approached me from this podcast. You don't know who listens, and they come up to you and it's like, hey, you do the podcast. Hey, you're the Hassle of Hair guy. And it's like, I'm literally I'm doing this from my home. So it's cool to see that it is growing a little bit. And I don't know, those little things cool. I'm not looking for that, but it's fun, right? It's fun because I don't know, like I want everybody to do good, even the people that that are not so nice to me, I guess. Like, I want them to do good too. I want everybody to do good. This life, there's no instruction manual on it, and not everybody's going to get it right. So you want people to do good. You want people to have a successful life. I don't want people to go to their deathbed and have any regrets. I love seeing people going after it. I love people not giving up. I I love seeing people like really loving their life, if that makes sense. And it's hard to see people that you've known or grew up with, and they come up to you and they just look lost, right? They look lost. They look out of it. They really look like they lost their way, right? Like I'm over here, I was bummed out after I lost at the TBAs, and then I was bummed out when kind of like the podcast, it got harder and it got tougher to get people on, and my schedule got busier. I was bummed out because it wasn't working the way I wanted. And then I started seeing people I grew up with. Like I'm at 30, 31, like I'm 31 and all my friends are 31, and I'm starting to see a change in the people that I grew up with. Like you're starting to see people that made the bad decisions really show their life that way. Like their life's starting to show it. And it sucks to see people like that. And at the same time, you there's nothing really you could do, right? I actually had a buddy of mine who was like, I mean, he's an addict. Like he's an addict, and I didn't know how to help him. Right? You want to just shake him, right? You're like, get out of it. Like, why are you like this? Life is so much more. Why are you addicted? Why are you doing this? You're screwing yourself over. You have so much promise. You have so much things to do. You can do better. You just want to grab him and shake him. You could do better. And that's not how it works. You can't force somebody. So I had to step back. I had to pull myself away and let him deal with it himself. And he did. And he's starting to get better, and it just, like, I don't know, like, you can't force it on anybody. Now I'm just ranting. I'm sorry, guys. But had a good weekend. You guys, again, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Thank you guys for, if I've seen you, thank you for motivating me and telling me to keep going. Thank you for the people that have told me they listen. You guys are awesome. I'm going to have more guests. I'm going to keep on doing this thing. Even if something happens, I'm going to come back to this and I'm going to keep going. I love podcasting. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoy your week. Share the episode, guys. Tell somebody, tell a friend. Last week episode got to 60 listens. 60 listens. I want to get this episode to 100 listens. So if you guys know a friend that likes boxing, that likes inspiring stories, or just wants to hear a podcast, like, send it their way. Tell them about it. Make sure to add us on Instagram at the Hassle of Hair on Instagram. And then my wife also has a business called Raquel Diaz Designs, and she makes custom designs. Right now she's making keychains for softball with your name on it, and just different custom designs, shirts, anything you guys want, she does. It honestly goes into our business, which is the podcast, the Raquel Diaz Designs, and everything else we do, it goes straight back into the business. So you guys are supporting the podcast at the same time. So go ahead and buy something from her, Raquel Diaz Designs. I love you guys, or add her on Instagram. I love you guys. Have a great day. Subscribe to the YouTube, guys. Have a great week. I love you. Peace.